Kia ora. It's generally along the same lines. I've advocated for both urban design, call it street activation, what have you, that integrates really one of the outcomes of the Auckland plan that's about let's see Auckland as a point of difference in terms of its Māori identity. And to be frank, the impact statement and what's a collection of projects doesn't give me a sense that things are actually starting to flow from hui to actual integration and implementation at the street level. And so I don't know whether that's the fact of this is just a conglomeration of report, but I want more information that tells me that that this is happening, that Māori values are being integrated into these various initiatives, that there is cohesion in a similar way between the various agencies and their work in the same place in respect to that, and that there is a conscious incorporation of the tiaranga principles in the urban design manual. So you can maybe talk to it, but I'm wanting more information going forward around that.
Madam Chair, I suggest we provide a separate briefing on how the tiaranga, which is the Maori urban design principles, will be incorporated into our whole range of projects. And we've committed to, as you say, recognising the uniqueness of Maori culture and our identity, and we're addressing that very comprehensively. And Ludo Campbell-Reid's team has worked with IMSB and Roe Hoskins to develop the tiaranga principles, and we'd be happy to arrange maybe a separate briefing on how that's going to be done and how that is being done.
To this committee? I mean, I'd really appreciate a report coming back to this committee on that as an actual topic, so that they can.
I think that's
Madam
a really good idea.
Madam Chair, we're happy to do that, and we are having those conversations. This report, to be fair, is at a level above the detail of the projects, and we are talking specifically with respect to principals being involved in specific projects, but very happy to come back with a report that elaborates on that.
Great.
I think that's part of looking at how we make this committee and the work program of this committee work more effectively, and the work program, I think, needs to split out some of these critical items that are big enough to deserve some slightly more in-depth treatment, and I think part of that is exactly the issue that you're raising, Member Ngamane, so we will make sure that happens. Councillor Fletcher.
Oh, Madam Chair, it was in light of the questions that were asked about public art, I would just like clarification from yourself or from the Mayor as to, with the responsibilities on city transformation, including the city centre, where public art actually fits, whether that is in Elf's committee, whether it resides in this committee. I think in terms of accountability it would be really useful if there are to be questions on the issue of public art. I would like to know where they reside and those accountabilities.
Felian Squealy and Councillor Philippiner's committee.
My committee.
Okay, so they will be, the issues around public art will be directed back through Councillor Philippiner's committee.
And the work program, as the committee members know, the work program comes through to my committee as well, around the public art and what's getting installed and what's getting sort of completed.
Okay, so the next question I had related to the Quay Street seawall seismic upgrade. I just needed a little bit more information on that important piece of work. This is a important strategic issue. It's a bit of a once over lightly in terms of para 38 and 39. Can you give us further detail on that?
Madam Chair, happy to bring back a more substantial report at the next meeting if that's what the councillors would like.
Well, I'm in your hands, Madam Chair, but I think that's actually quite an important issue.
Okay, follow up, a bit more detail. You can provide that. Thank you. Webster.
Oh, yes, thank you, and thank you for the report, and although we got tied down on one or two, it was quite good because this morning hearing from Joel Cayford that they started something in 2002 and here we are in 2015, nothing's been done. At least we actually do seem to be, so we might even, despite the discussion we've just had, get things done before 2025. However, the seawall one I can understand is important and probably needs to be funded under the basic transport, of the alternative Auckland Plan Transport Program, but I have to agree with my colleague Cameron Brewer. I would not like to see Quay Street upgrade done through that funding. There are far too many, and everybody knows around here, roads that need to be sealed in Rodney before we actually start making more money in the central district, because, you know, people, it's good that we're doing the centre of Auckland. I'm really pleased that we're doing some of it, but we do have to be aware of other priorities from other areas.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brewer.
Oh, just following up from the previous two speakers on the Quay Street seawall seismic upgrade, just following on from what Councillor Fletcher was saying, it'd be good to see more details around that. And again, I think Aucklanders would be surprised to learn that that regional fuel tax and or a toll on the existing motorway network, revenue from drivers paying for that way will go towards, will potentially go towards a seismic upgrade of a sea wharf. Again, these are the kind of projects that are going to dilute the confidence we have in taking these revenue streams, and they are not consulted on, from what I can see, in our draft LTP. We're talking about hard transport, public transport, roading, public transport facility and service improvements, but already we're diluting these funding streams by telling people we're going to fix sea wharfs and beautify Quay Street. So we were told that this was an urgent work, and now supposedly it can happen in 2020. So like Councillor Fletcher, I'd be interested in more detail on that and seeing whether it can be funded without needing to charge our motorway users or via a regional fuel tax, because I don't think it's direct transport infrastructure upgrade.
Is it a renewal?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, we'll report, as we said, comprehensively next month on that.
And I think there's a crossover between this and our finance discussion, so I think we just need to get a little bit of clarity into what are some of the basic and critical issues in our transport program, and where do we make those decisions about where these fit. We've kind of reached the end of the speaking order. Councillor Darby?
I've been waiting for, I thought we were taking questions and then we were going to go to Mr. Watt's presentation. Is that correct?
If you let me finish my sentence, that's exactly the point I was going to make. We've finished the speaking order on the questions. I'm now just going to check to see there aren't any more.
Okay, so I have some questions on some other things in the report.
Okay.
Is it now the time? Because people have been asking all over the place.
Wide ranging.
Are we canvassing just questions on all of the report now?
We made that clear. So the point was that we had moved from the lease versus freehold discussion. We then went into the wider questions, which we made clear, and that's what we're doing now. If there are other questions, please feel free to ask, and then we're going to get Mr. Watts to do his brief report on the QE2 delineation.
Couple of questions then. At what stage, if they were, was the CCI group aware of an application by the Ports of Auckland to extend Bledisloe Wharf B2 and B3 by some 3,000 metres each, a total of 6,000 metres? And was that ever communicated through the CCI's work to the mayor or councillors?
So I think I think it's probably...
That the new bridge to Devonport?
Yeah, no, I'm going to, because I
Herald
asked
this morning.
it is, and we can't, much and all as we'd like to, we can't run our committee by the Herald. Mrs. Perry,
Well, they don't do a bad
can
job.
you just explain the process by which these extensions
No,
happened.
that wasn't
I'm
my
just-
question. That wasn't my
Oh,
question.
Councillor, it may be useful just to get that clarified. Can you just explain that, Mrs. Pirrott?
So those resource consents were resource consents for extensions to existing wharf structures. That activity is currently provided for within the Regional Coastal Plan that was developed and adopted by the former Regional Council and is now the Regional Coastal Plan for Auckland Council. They provide for the day-to-day operation of the port, and in the Regional Coastal Plan at the present time, extensions to wharf structures, which is what these consents were, is a controlled activity. Now, under the Resource Management Act, controlled activities need to be consented. They cannot be declined. And furthermore, in the Regional Coastal Policy Statement, the former Regional Council made the choice of indicating that those controlled activities would always be non-notified. So these resource consents were dealt with through an independent planning commissioner who's a duty commissioner for resource consents. The only reason why there was even a determination around notification were for other aspects which were to do with the stormwater discharge consents that go with any extension to a wharf. The duty commissioner determined that in terms of those stormwater consents, there were no more than minor effects and there was no need to be notified. That is a standard practice that happens during the port operations on a regular basis, and it is expected and planned for in the Regional Coastal Policy Statement at this time.
That's good, and I appreciate that, and that's very clear. And my question is, further to that, given that this report is from the CCI and we have all kinds of stuff about, we're being updated on things like the West Haven Promenade and Digital Auckland, the cycle network, why were we not advised that such a significant consent was granted? And did the CCI have that knowledge?
Madam Chair, I didn't have the knowledge that the consent had been granted. I was aware of the framework within which the port can operate for those things to occur, but I had no knowledge of the consent or its granting. There are many consents and grants that I don't come to hear about. That's not my role or function.
Okay. So if we request, because it will be for information, if we request within the port precinct that consents are, that we're updated with those consents, then we'll receive them in the report. I think the point that Mrs. Pirrott made is that there are quite a lot and many of them are quite minor, but if we would like to, for our information, be updated with those, I'm sure that will be fine.
Thank you. My other question is, I've been approached by Cooper and Company who've had some concern about the limitation or the limit of the designation which stops at the face of the CPO. Of course, they have an interest in the CPO. What discussions have been undertaken with Cooper and Company to allay their concerns and the concerns their tenants have within the building?
Madam Chair, I think I can assist there. So there's clearly the CRL tunnels go under the CPO. The CRL designation didn't include the CPO, although the CPO is subject to a rail designation. There's discussions underway, and this is really being led by AT in this regard. So AT is in regular contact with Cooper and Co regarding the nature of the works and the effects they could have on the CPO, and that may or may not lead AT to some further activity regarding the designation. In the meantime, ACPL has been in contact with the tenants as we're managing the potential acquisitions of securing the vacancy. So we're in touch with the tenants, and currently we've put any action to move tenants on hold while AT continue to explore the possibility of being able to build the tunnels without disrupting the tenants.
Okay, so we're not in a position where we need to move to vary the designation at this time?
That's a matter that AT are evaluating.
Okay, thank you. And look, before we go to Mr. Watts, if we go back to the resolution that we're reflecting upon today, which is G under para 16, the last part is the question of public evaluation. Considering that there's been no opportunity for the public to enter into the debate of QE Square, what are the options that the staff are offering us in terms of public evaluations, especially in light of the Local Government Act and the significance and engagement policy adopted by this council on 1 December?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's fair to say there's a fair degree of ambiguity around point resolution G. As originally constructed as a recommendation, it referred to the fact that the re-provision of public space in the downtown area would form part of the Quay Street project, and that itself would be subject to a public evaluation. So there was a public process associated with that. The sale and lease options component was inserted by way of an amendment. So the public evaluation refers to the re-provision of public space in the waterfront area.
Madam Chair, that's not the way I saw that at the time of the meeting. The public evaluations directly related to QE Square. Now, maybe there were a lot of members around the table at that time, but other members might have a different point of view, but my understanding is that there has been no public opportunity to evaluate the direction of this council on QE Square. Is that correct?
I think that, Madam Chair, I can just assist. So in a sense, you could say, if you look at the consistency of your decisions relating to the delegations, then nothing in those decisions built any consultation factor in. The other important point is any transaction to sell QE2 Square is subject to the condition that it has to go through the road stopping process, which is a public notified process. So there's going to be a whole public consultation process. That there also needs to be a plan change on the zoning, which is equally a publicly notified process. So I think there will be as it will turn out, there will be lots of opportunities for the public to comment,
As well as the open space discussion.
as well as that.
Yep.
So, okay, Madam Chair, look, I'll leave it there and I'll comment later, but I think we need to go to the boundary extent now.
Okay, and just a bit of a time check for people. We will work our way through this, planning to break, I think, once we've finished this item. I think that will be an effective time to have a quick break or a lunch break. So, Tim, we're in your hands.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't prepared a formal presentation, sorry to see Rita disappear, but I do have the actual document, which I can point to extracts from